If you do this alone, you're more intelligent than you realize. Real intelligence is quiet. It doesn't show up in your grades. It doesn't announce itself in conversations. It happens in the dark, when no one's watching, when there's nothing to prove. But here's what most people get wrong. They think intelligence is about how fast you process information, how many facts you know, how well you perform under pressure. That's not intelligence. That's performance. Real intelligence is a set of private habits, 7 of them, that high-functioning minds practice alone, in silence, that most people will never even think to do. Researchers have studied this, cognitive scientists have mapped it, and almost none of it looks like what you'd expect. Here are the 7 habits. Pay attention, because by the end, you'll either recognize yourself or you'll know exactly what's been missing. Habit number 1, studying emotions as data. Most people feel an emotion and react. Intelligent people feel an emotion and pause. They ask, what is this signal actually telling me? That spike of anxiety before a decision isn't weakness. It's your brain flagging a conflict between what you want and what you know. That flash of irritation in a conversation isn't irrational. It's data, a boundary crossed, a value challenged. Psychologists call this metacognition, thinking about your own thinking. And high-functioning minds treat their inner world like a diagnostic tool, not a storm to survive. You're not controlled by your emotions, you're reading them. That's a different kind of intelligence most people never develop. And if reading emotions sounds like emotional intelligence, what's coming next will completely reframe what that means in practice. Habit number 2, active self-opposition. Darwin did it. Einstein did it. Charlie Munger built an entire investment philosophy around it. They all practiced the same private habit, arguing against themselves. Not second-guessing, not self-doubt, deliberately constructing the strongest possible case against their own beliefs. The average mind looks for evidence that confirms what it already thinks. The intelligent mind asks, what would I need to see to believe I'm wrong? This isn't easy. It's deeply uncomfortable because it requires treating your own opinion as a hypothesis, not an identity. But the people who do this consistently, they make better decisions, hold more accurate beliefs, and rarely get blindsided because they already stress-tested everything, alone, in silence, before anyone else could challenge them. That takes a specific kind of mental stamina, which brings us to a habit most people misread as overthinking. Habit number 3, autonomous cognitive engagement. When was the last time you were genuinely entertained by your own thoughts? Not distracted, not scrolling, not listening to something, just thinking and finding it interesting. Highly intelligent minds can generate their own cognitive stimulation. They don't need external input to stay engaged. They follow a thought down 3 levels. They build models of how things work just for the satisfaction of it. They find their own company genuinely interesting. Neuroscience suggests this kind of default mode activation, quiet, self-directed thinking, is linked to stronger abstract reasoning, deeper self-awareness, and more complex emotional regulation. It's not that they prefer to be alone, it's that being alone is intellectually productive for them in a way it isn't for most people. But there's a difference between deep thinking and getting stuck on the same thought. The next habit is about what you do with uncomfortable questions you can't immediately answer. Habit number 4, epistemic patience. Most people have a very low tolerance for not knowing. They ask a question. They need an answer, fast. If a simple one exists, they take it, even if it's wrong. Because closure feels better than ambiguity. Highly intelligent people do the opposite. They sit with hard questions, deliberately. They resist the cheap answer. They stay in the uncomfortable space between knowing and not knowing, because they've learned that the best answers take time to surface. Philosophers call this epistemic patience. It's the ability to hold open questions without anxiety, to be okay with, "I don't know yet," and it is extraordinarily rare, because the brain is built for closure, not curiosity. If patience is about sitting with questions, the next habit is about what intelligent minds do with their answers, specifically, the ones they thought were final. Habit number 5. Real-time intellectual agility. Mid-sentence, mid-argument, mid-belief. Highly intelligent minds pivot. They'll be making a point and suddenly realize they're wrong. And instead of finishing the argument anyway, they stop. Actually, I think I was wrong about that. No ego defense, no face-saving spin, just a clean correction. This is one of the most underrated signs of high intelligence, and one of the rarest, because most people treat their opinions like their reputation. To change your mind is to lose. Intelligent minds treat their opinions like tools. If a better one exists, they switch. Pivoting mid-thought is one thing, but the next habit involves going back, further back than you'd expect. Habit number 6. Rewriting the past. You carry stories about your life. Why things happened, what they meant, who you were. Most people treat those stories as fixed. High intelligent minds revisit them, not to rewrite what happened, but to reinterpret what it means now that they know more. The rejection that felt like failure at 22 looks like redirection at 30. The argument you were sure you won might have been the moment you were actually wrong. Cognitive scientists call this memory reconsolidation, the brain's ability to update the emotional weight attached to a memory when new context is introduced. It's not revisionism. It's intellectual growth applied backwards. You become a better reader of your own history, and that changes how you read what's coming. That's updating the past. The final habit is about what intelligent minds do with the present, specifically the questions no one else is paying attention to. Habit number 7. Useless curiosity. They're reading about the history of maps at midnight, not because it's useful, not because it connects to anything, just because they want to know. This is the clearest fingerprint of genuine intellectual drive. Not curiosity for advantage, not learning for a goal. Pure, unprompted, non-strategic curiosity about how the world actually works. Research consistently links this kind of intrinsic intellectual engagement with higher cognitive flexibility, broader knowledge networks, and, crucially, more creative problem-solving in unrelated domains. The information that seems useless now is building invisible architecture in your mind. And one day, in a meeting, in a conversation, in a moment, it connects. And the people around you call it genius. It's not genius. It's curiosity that compounded quietly while no one was watching. If any of these habits felt familiar, you've probably wondered why you think differently than most people around you. Not better, just differently. There's a next video that goes deeper into exactly why that kind of mind is built in the first place, and what it costs you if you don't understand it. It's the one to watch next. 7 habits, all private, all quiet. Epistemic patience. Sitting with hard questions longer than feels comfortable. Active self-opposition. Being the strongest critic of your own beliefs. Useless curiosity. Learning for no reason except that your mind won't let it go. These aren't skills you perform. They're the way a certain kind of mind rests. And if you recognized yourself in even a few of these, the world probably didn't give you language for it. Now you have it. Comment quiet if this described how you actually think. Share it with one person who thinks differently than everyone around them. And don't miss the next one, because what comes after intelligence is where things get really interesting.